In an effort to slow the spread of the virus, many jails across Colorado emptied out in the last year. And in some, the population of inmates dropped by nearly a third.
And now some lawmakers are considering a bill that would fundamentally change jails and even bail in our state. Denver 7's Megan Lopez takes a 360 look at one of the most controversial bills this legislative session.
Senate Bill 62 would reduce jail populations in two ways. First, it would require police officers in most cases to issue a court summons instead of arresting a person who commits a misdemeanor crime or certain lower-class felonies like theft or trespassing, unless the person poses a safety risk. Second, it requires judges to issue more personal recognizance or signature-only bonds instead of a cash bond, unless the person is a flight or safety risk. That means people wouldn't have to pay to get out of jail, so more would be released. There's a lot of nuance to it and also a lot of opposition. In this Denver 7 360, you'll hear 8 perspectives on this jail reform bill and what it would mean for Colorado.
We have an addiction to jails and prisons, and yet our communities are not any safer.
For supporters like the ACLU, this bill is about preserving the key tenet of our judicial system.
The principle that one is innocent until proven guilty.
Colorado's jail population has increased 800%.
Bill co-sponsor Senator Pete Lee says many of the people we're locking up need help, not jail time.
Putting people in jail who are mentally ill or addicted to drugs doesn't solve mental illness or drug abuse problems.
There's 16 cells, there's 2 men per cell.
Incarcerating fewer people will save money. With COVID, some of these reduction practices were already put in place to allow jails to better social distance. An ACLU report found that jail rates in Colorado dropped 46% between last March and May, something that could save the state $210 million annually.
We should reserve our jails for the people who create a risk to people in the community.
I'm the niece of Michael Marshall, who died in jail.
Natalia Marshall believes a bill like this could have saved her uncle's life.
Uncle Michael was arrested on a trespassing charge, a very minor, non-violent crime. So he was being held for a total of 5 days, but he was being held under a $100 bond.
Michael Marshall had a psychotic breakdown in jail. Deputies forcefully restrained him. He choked on his vomit and eventually died.
There was no reason for him to even be in jail in the first place. They could have gave him a fine. They could have called family members. They could have took him to the mental health facility, anything.
She hopes this bill will help people like her uncle. Others.
It's pro-criminal.
See things differently. Senator John Cook says Senate Bill 62 would let suspects of serious crimes also walk free.
Bribing a witness, bribing a juror, animal fighting, second-degree arson, third-degree arson, fourth-degree arson.
This is a catch-and-release program where for serious crimes they're only given a court date. And I would ask for a no vote on Senate Bill 62.
At its first committee hearing, mayors, police chiefs, and more testified against the bill.
Motor vehicle thefts are up almost 39%.
Saying while there was an initial dip in crime during COVID, things like car theft are up significantly.
This is just, I think, an invitation for criminals to continue their conduct without any interruption of serving time.
We do not know what's happening because of a crazy year with this pandemic. So why in the world would we want to pass major legislation right now?
17 sheriffs and police chiefs signed a letter expressing their opposition to the bill, and another 19 departments signed a second. At first, Denver District Attorney Beth McCann was also opposed to the bill, but after some changes,
almost all the crimes that involve victims are excluded from this bill.
She now supports it.
We often have people in jail waiting trial that really don't need to be there.
McCann agrees with the idea of issuing a court summons rather than arresting people for low-level crimes and says Denver has already been working on a way to make that happen.
One of the biggest concerns is if you have a lot of money, you can make your bond, and if you don't, you can't. And that isn't really the way bond is supposed to work.
She believes this bill will bring more equity to pretrial detentions, but says the current version could use a few more tweaks. For bail bondsmen,
I don't think it would eliminate bail in Colorado. It would significantly reduce the amount of bail that's written in Colorado.
A bill like this is bad for business. Jeff Clayton is the executive director of the American Bail Coalition and says the part he worries about the most is that defendants can fail to appear in court 3 times before being issued a cash bond.
Arrest warrants could go out every time, too. So these people could be rearrested numerous times, only to then be released, of course, because the judges can't do a bail.
Clayton says cash bonds play an important role in getting people to show up,
which essentially would require a third party or the defendant to post some property, to have some skin in the game.
He also worries about how the bill limits a judge's discretion to take things like prior criminal history into account.
The only potential beneficiary of a bill like this are repeat and violent offenders.
If passed, Senate Bill 62 would be the most significant change to jails Colorado has seen in years.
96 total inmates it'll hold.
There are a lot of people who support it and many others who oppose it. The bill still has a way to go, but this could be one of the biggest discussions this session. Megan Lopez, Denver 7.
And now here's your chance. We want to hear from you. What changes, if any, should Colorado make? Email us at 360@thedenverchannel.com.